Hello, my name is Joel. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Shared Deck. Today I'm going to be doing Commander Deck Tech on Progenitus. So the goal of the deck is try to ramp out as fast as you can, try to play out Progenitus, and hopefully that'll be enough to win the game. So this is not a very competitive deck. It's a okay deck. It runs 46 lands, and then it just tries to ramp out Progenitus as fast as you possibly can. If that doesn't work, then plan B would be to just have creatures that gets a power boost for how much land that is already in play. So without further ado, this is the deck. This is Progenitus. Pretty much, hopefully we'll be able to win with it once it's down. So first up, we'll go through the lands. So we have some of the 5-color lands like Mana Confluence, Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, Reflecting Pool, City of Brass, and Gemstone Mine. So those are the 5-color lands. So now we're going through the triomes, 3-color. So this is going to be important, the basic land types. So since this deck has like a sub-theme of having Sunburst, Converge, and Domain, so it is very important. So if you have a triome land, it already fulfills 3 of the 5 land types that needs to be on play. Make it work. So you got Idanta Triome, Ketria, Zagath, and Savai. Now the Ravnica dual lands. So you got Blood Crypt, Godless Shrine, Sacred Foundry, Stomping Ground, Overgrown Tomb, Breeding Pool, Watery Grave, Hollow Fountain, Steam Vents, Temple Garden, and some of the fetch lands. So we got Flood and Strand, Misty Forest, Bloodstained Mire, Windswept Heath. Move this a little bit. There you go. Marsh Flats, Verdant Catacombs, Arid Mesa, Polluted Delta, Wooded Foothills, and some other fetch lands like Corrosive Verge, which is very good because it actually fetches you a forest and a plains guard. It's not a basic forest or basic plains, it is an actual forest or plains guard that has that land type. So you can pretty much fetch for Temple Garden or Stomping Ground. Prismatic Vista fetches for basic lands, Fabled Passage, and somewhat of a utility lands. So I got 5 of the Modern Horizon draw cards. So sacrifice this. So I got Sunbaked Canyon, Fury Islet, Nurturing Peatland, Silent Clearing, and Waterlogged Grove, and some utility, some Bajuka Bog, and then a Ghost Quarter. So those are the only utility cards, lands that I have, since I would rather have mana fixing, especially in a 5-color deck. So, and a Ghost Quarter, forgot. Now I run 1 island, 1 plains, 1 swamp, a Ron Spear signature, Asian land. I got this when I was in the Philippines. Mountain, 3 forests. Yeah, so that's the land. So 46 lands. And now let's go forward with the ramp section of the deck. Move this. So there you go. So sorry. So Nature's Lure can search for a forest. So it's not just a basic forest. So that is crucial, especially when I do, since the deck has a sub-theme of Converge, Sunburst, Domain. So it is very important to have that kind of lands that search for it. Same thing with Farseek. The only difference is this comes into the Farseek, the land comes into play tapped. Solar Ring, like every commander deck has it. It's a rarity that one deck doesn't have it, especially how cheap it is right now. Night of Reliquary. So this is a win con because as you can see how many fetch lands that I have, and then it could tutor up for if I needed a late game draw. I could use the sacrifice ability of the knight, or if I need Bajuka Bog at the last minute to just take out a graveyard deck, a ED Commander deck, and search out for a Ghost Quarter if need be. And also, one more thing, it also does ramp too. So what happens is you tap the forest, then you float 1 mana out of it, then sacrifice, use the ability, look for another land that comes into play untapped. So you net 2 mana out of it. So it's a good thing. Calling Oracle, ramp. I read through the Sky Shroud's Claim. Pretty much the same thing, also ramps, but it looks for 2 forest cards. Core Cartographer ramps, but it also the reason why I use this is because actually looks for a plains card, not a basic plains. So that is definitely a good for this deck. So Lotus Cobra, ramp. Ultimate Hydra, pretty much the same thing. It ramps and it's a win con too because it gets a power boost for each land that we control. So at the same time, it looks for a land and puts it directly into play. So this is more for if I need a Bajuka Bog or a Ghost Quarter at the last minute. Bear Umbra. It's pretty much a ramp. So whenever I attach this to a creature and I attack, it untaps all my lands. The only downside of it is an aura. So creature removal at the right before I put into attach it to a creature is very risky. So I try to use it. I try to time it well so I don't get blown out. So with Prismatic Geoscope, so this is a card that I like to play in a 5-color deck. Well, just for this deck, because it is very slow. It is a mana ramp, but it is 5 mana, and then it has domain. So what domain is, for every basic land type you have in play, you pretty much add 1 mana to it. So let's say you have a Temple Garden, so it will produce a green and white mana, or you have like a Ketrian Triome, so it'll produce green, red, and blue mana. So it's definitely very good. So if you have a Triome in play, you produce 3. So more than likely you'll have, by the time you put this down, you'll have at least domain. So the ideal situation would be by the 4th turn, with all the land fetches that we have in the deck, and then you'll have domain in the 4th turn. Play this in the 4th turn, and then untap, and you'll be able to play this. Should be able to have 10 mana, and you'll have Progenitus into play at the 5th turn. That's a magical Christmas land if everything goes well. So that's it. 3 visits. Pretty much Nature's Lore. Searches for a forest card. A Baduka Gardener. Since we do have 4 to 6 lands, there's very high. It is highly likely that you will always have a land in our hand. So this is a ramp. So whenever I have 10 lands in play, this flips, and it becomes Dokai, Weaver of Life. So it is a win con. So this plays nicely to plan B of the deck. If Progenitus isn't able to close out the game, then hopefully Dokai would be able to overwhelm our opponents. So with when you create XX green elemental creature tokens. So. Next is Explore. Very good card. And it's a draw card too. Kiora, I'll always use the -1 ability. I really don't care too much for this 2 abilities. The +1 and the -5. I don't think I'll ever hit the -5. So I usually just use the -1, and if Kiora gets attacked, then awesome. Then I don't have that's points that's not coming my way. Spoils of victory, pretty much the same thing. It actually looks for you're not tied into just looking for a basic land, so you can look for any of the dual lands, the triumph lands, put it in directly into play to help out my Sunverge, Converge, and Domain. Growth Spiral, the same. Draw a card and ramp. Wood Elves, looks for a forest, ramp. Crystalline Crawler, I'm pretty much just testing out. I'm trying to put this in the deck, and I think this is pretty much the deck that it could definitely go in, since it does have a Converge Sunburst team, sub team. So it's a little bit closer. Alright, Azusa Lost But Seeking. Ramp. Google through some of this real quick. Nature's Will. Pretty much ramp. So whenever you deal combat damage to a player, you untap all your lands, and then you tap all your opponent's lands. That whenever whichever player it dealt damage to. So it is definitely ramp. So pretty awesome card. I like it. Mana, excuse me. Mana Reflection, a mana doubler. And then Mirari's Wake. This is pretty much, if it goes well, you should be able to play this on the 4th turn, and then you should be able to play Progenitus on the 5th turn if everything plays out well. So Oracle of Moldiah, ramp, and it kind of gives you card advantage because you can play lands on top of your library, from the top of your library. So. Rider of Elysian Grove, ramp, and mana fixing at the same time. Awesome. Wayward Swordtooth lets you play an additional land, and it's a good attacker if you have the City's Blessing. 3 to cast 5/5, not bad. Icy Tyrant of Gyre Straits. So this is a very crucial card to the deck. So it does give you an additional land every turn, but at the same time it lets you draw cards. So that is definitely an important part of the game for me. So drawing a card while you're playing lands is, as you can see, I have a lot of creatures that lets you play additional lands. So the card advantage is pretty awesome if everything goes well. Mina and then lets you play an additional land, so it is also ramp. So as you can see, almost half of the non-land cards in my deck is ramp, so I'm definitely leaning towards the ramp. Hopefully I'll be able to play Progenitus as quick as I can, and then if that doesn't work, then hopefully I have enough lands into play that I'll be able to overwhelm my opponents. So let's get to the plan B, which is the win con. So Raja, Hire Keld, pretty good card. Lets you play lands on top of your library. I wouldn't say it's ramp, but it is card advantage if you do have a land into play. Put it directly into play. And it gets a +X, where X is the number of lands you control. Good card. Like it. Obnixilis drains out a player for every land that comes into play. Considering how much fetch lands that I have, it will drain out a lot of life if they don't deal with it. So if this hangs around a couple of turns, it will definitely do a lot of damage to a player. And at the same time, it gets a power boost. Augmenter Pugilist, it's a beater. I don't think I'll ever. So on the other side, on the blue side, we have echoing equation. So all it does is choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end of turn, except if those aren't legendary. So there's only a very specific situation that I'll be able to use that. So if anything, I'll, not unless I have if I have Progenitus into play and I have a couple creatures, that would be pretty awesome. Or Obnixilis. But other than that, that's pretty much the I don't think there's really anything else that I could do to the be able to take care of and take advantage of that. Rubble Hulk, so use the blood rush ability plus X, where X is the number of lands you control. Ashaya, so the wilds, same thing, gets a power boost for each land you control. It's an anti-cyclonic rift too, so that is pretty awesome. Since nobody really uses land destruction in my play group, at least, it's pretty good. Crash of Rhino Beetles. If you have 10 or more lands, it gets +10/+10, so it's a 15/15 trampler. Dragon Master Outcast. So at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 6 or more land cards, it produces a 5/5 red dragon flying. So that's pretty much a good card. So Tech. So this is a card that I like to play. I've always wanted to put it in a deck, and I think this deck will definitely be the deck to put it in. Because if you control all 5 basic land types, it would be a 4/4 flying first strike trampler. Awesome card for 5 colorless, 5 generic mana. It's definitely a good rate. I mean, nowadays that could be an uncommon, but it's an okay card. Woodland Wanderer, it has Converge. If you pay all 4 colors, it's a 6/6 Vigilance Trample. Not bad. It's a beater. So my only Sunburst card. So it's a board wipe. So I try to stick to the theme. So that's why it's a very limited board wipe. But that's the only Sunburst card that I could really try to fit in there. So Sunburst is pretty awesome for this. Worst comes to worst, if they have a lot of tokens, I could just pay 0 and then pay 2. Then I could take out a lot of tokens. Planar Despair. Like I said, I try to stick to the theme. So this has Domain. There's a lot more better board wipes. But like I said, -5/-5 for all creatures you control. It's not bad. To all creatures in play, I'm sorry. For all creatures in play, it gets -5/-5. Lavalanche just targets a player. Pet card. So Ulamog, Ceaseless Hunger, part of Plan B. So when you cast it, you exile 2 target permanents. Indestructible. The third ability, when it attacks, I mean, I don't really use it. Doesn't really get me any advantage. I don't think I'll be able to mill out an opponent, but it's there. So that's definitely Plan B, and this goes into kind of straddles the pinpoint removal too. So I don't have a whole lot of single target removal. So I have Swords to Plowshares and D-Spark. So those are the only 2 really removed that I have. So Graveyard Recursion. So Restore. So this could be a ramp too, since I have a lot of fetch lands. So I could just play it, then remove a land. I'm sorry. So I could fetch a land first turn, play a land on the second turn, play Restore, play another land. So you get another land. So it's a good card. I like it. So on let's say you fetch in the first turn, and then in the second turn you play a land, play Restore, you get the land that you use to fetch, then you get 3 mana. Or worst comes to worst, if your opponent has a fetch land too, then you could use that, return target land. So it's definitely a ramp. Remnant Excavator, pretty much the same. Play lands. So that's under my Graveyard Recursion. Turn Timber Sour. There's a lot of better cards, but like I said, I'm testing it. Hopefully, it probably won't be too good, but it has a sacrifice outlet on there, so sacrifice 3 creatures. So whenever I do a fetch, I at least get a 0/1 green plant creature token out of it. Lord Windgrace. The +2 is pretty awesome because since I have 4 to 6 lands, I will definitely be drawing 2 cards most of the time. Or -3 since I get some card advantage because I get to return 2 land cards at the same time I'm ramping too. So -11 ability, the ultimate ability, I really don't care too much for it. But Titania serves 2 folds. It returns a land from my graveyard to play, and at the same time, whenever a land is put into my graveyard from the battlefield, I put a 5/3 green elemental creature token. So it is a win con too. So it's definitely a pretty much awesome card here. So now we're on the card draw. So card draw is pretty slim. So you got Tatiova. So Corval, the Fate Curse King. Since I have a lot of cards that sacrifice, so I either sacrifice a land or sacrifice a creature. So it'll get bigger, and at the same time it lets me draw a card. So it's great. So every time I fetch a land, I definitely did draw a card. I'm so sorry. So get in there. Tireless Tracker. Card draw. At the same time, whenever you sacrifice a clue token, whenever Corval is in play, it gets bigger. And at the same time, the Tireless Tracker gets bigger too. Painful Truths. Converge. Draw X cards. It has Converge. So, good card. Try to stay to the theme. And Domain. So, Collective Restraint. So, this is my... I don't lose in the early game card. So, on the first couple of turns, I usually just be ramping. I'm not going to be putting any blockers or attackers right away. So having Collective Restraint on my opening hand is definitely a key for me not to die in the early game. So with that is pretty much the last card, I believe. Yes, it is. So hope you enjoy my Progenitus Deck Tech. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you.